It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball.
Holloman looks the clock, half court for the win.
The Lions go for it. The Vikings bring it. The pass is a touchdown to give. Javi Baez homered earlier. First one in the air, deep left field again. Yes, Tigers win! Javi is unstoppable!
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. I do apologize for last week having the wrong microphone set. I do hope that I have the right one set. I'm pretty sure that it is, but I apologize for the recording from a cardboard box sound last week. We got a great show. We got a lot to talk about. A lot of stuff that happened over the weekend. And of course, we're going to talk March Madness. We're going to talk Red Wings. We're going to talk Pistons. That's obviously the headliner for me. And right now, Red Wings, we'll kind of keep you guys in touch in case you don't have the game on. Right now, Red Wings looking at a 0-0 tie in the first period. They just failed to score on a power play. I also saw they showed a stat. The Red Wings are 14th in power play. That's like not even that good. I was under the impression they were like so good in the power play, but they're not even that good. Like 14th is a little above average, right? That's not like, if they were top 10, they were top 5, but they're not. Also, another apology. I'm a little congested if you can't tell. Getting over some sort of illness that I picked up, I think last Friday. I don't know. I'm starting a new job this week, so I had to go in, but I'm sick a little bit. I'm not so sick that I can't do it, but, it's just, I'm a little stuffy. So, yeah. I can't score 5 on 5. I can't score 5. Right, that's my thing. That was the whole thing, was that they're not that good on 5 on 5, but they're pretty good on the power play. But 14th, come on. Do a little bit better than that. But anyway, I wanted to start the show with some Pistons talk because, look, over the weekend, they clinched the playoffs, not the postseason, not just the play-in. They clinched the playoffs. I believe they are the first team in the Eastern Conference to clinch the playoffs. I want to say they're only like the third team overall to clinch the playoffs, because I think the Thunder, and let me just double check that, they are the first team in the East. I think they might be the first team in general. Hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, they are the first team in general to clinch the playoffs. I guess the Thunder have clinched their division, and so have the Spurs. But that, I guess, doesn't count as clinching the playoffs. Maybe it does. I don't know. Does anybody even care about divisions basketball? Anyway, the Pistons clinched a playoff spot last weekend. Great. Cade must have been going off. He must have been. Oh, when I tell you that on Wednesday morning in the year of our Lord 2026, on March the 19th or March the 18th, when I woke up, when I went to work, when I saw the alert on my telephone, my cellular telephone, that Cade Cunningham was out indefinitely, I was like, oh no, what happened? Collapsed lung. What? Collapsed lung? I mean, this was literally hold on.
This is bad. This is very,
Stephen
very
A.,
bad.
That was my reaction. Are you serious? A collapsed lung? His lung, I was like, I'll send him my lung. I don't know. What can I send it in the mail? Is there UPS? Can I send it over? I don't know. But then it turned out that apparently he could be ready for the postseason, but he's probably done for the regular season. Okay. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with this whole situation. You would think that once Cade Cunningham goes down, you would think that the team would kind of start to spiral a little bit. I mean, he's obviously their best scorer. He's probably the best player in the Eastern Conference this year, if not one of the best players in the NBA. But since he went down, including the game he did go down, the Pistons are 3-0, including that road win against Washington and a couple of home wins against a Golden State team who, granted, is a corpse and no longer, and no Steph Curry on that team, but a LA Lakers team that was largely healthy as far as its stars go. Had Luka Doncic, had LeBron James. You know, the Pistons were down Isaiah Stewart, obviously already down Cade Cunningham, and they got an impressive win, an amazing win, I might even say. Shout out to Dennis Jenkins's 30-point bomb that he dropped on LeBron James. That was glorious. That was a great win. And I would say that, okay, well, we survived. That's what we're good. Things don't get much easier from here. Okay. I went ahead and took a look, and this includes last night's game. 9 out of 12 of the final opponents are either clinched the postseason or that means play-in / playoffs, or are currently in the postseason or playoffs. 9 out of the 12 teams. Let me see if I get this right here. Atlanta, Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Toronto, Minnesota again, Philadelphia, Orlando, Charlotte, and those are your teams. The rest of the teams, this was as of yesterday, so obviously this can change throughout the year, but all of those teams are potentially, if the season ended today, postseason teams. Those are teams that, in theory, the Pistons could face in the playoffs. Now, do I think they're going to face some of these teams in the playoffs? Probably not. But we're just shooting the shot. You know, we're just talking. All right. Things don't get easy. You know, I mean, if 9 out of your 12 games are against teams that are going to be in the playoffs, and a lot of those are on the road. You got a road game against Minnesota. That's a national broadcast on ESPN. You got a home game on Wednesday on ESPN. That's a national broadcast against Atlanta. You also got Oklahoma City on Peacock. That's a national broadcast. You know, you got another game against Minnesota, national broadcast. You got a lot of national broadcast. It's kind of funny that the last national broadcast game they have is against Milwaukee, and Milwaukee will probably not be in the playoffs. But anyway, you got a lot of tough games coming up. So who's your guy? Well, last night it was Dennis Jenkins. But is it going to be Tobias Harris? Is it going to be Duncan Robinson? I mean, is Jalen Duren going to magically develop a jump shot and just start hucking up threes like he's, Brook Lopez or something? Like, probably not. But look, on the one hand, of course, you're losing your best scorer, losing the guy who's an MVP candidate, the guy who is leading you to the promised land. That's not good. On the other, a team that's heavily reliant on its defense with a lot of really good defensive players, maybe you do kind of scratch by without Cade. Excuse me. Maybe you do kind of scratch out some wins here and there. And last night was a hugely impressive game. I mean, again, this was an LA team that was on a 9-game winning streak with an MVP candidate in Luka Doncic. And obviously LeBron James is LeBron James. I know that he's, kind of, slowing down finally at this point, but he's still LeBron James. That was a comprehensively impressive win. And especially when you had to have it, Dennis Jenkins hits those free throws. Dennis Jenkins drives to the basket. He played very, very well. You got to give the guy credit for a guy who was a G leaguer last year, a guy who you might have heard about in the summer league, to now be a bona fide NBA starter. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty damn impressive. Now, the other thing that you feel pretty good about is the standings. Right now, the Pistons have a 5-game lead on the Boston Celtics, and they do not play the Boston Celtics for the rest of the season. So there's no, double dip for Boston, potentially. That makes you feel good. If you can hold on to that number 1 seed, if you can, maintain that Then once you get Cade back, you're going to be playing the weakest opponent in the postseason. You're going to be playing the 8th seed, whoever that ends up being with the plan. And you're probably going to be able to get by them. And then you're on to the real playoffs. But that allows Cade more time to get acclimated, to, fully heal, to maybe even rest a little bit more. All of that is to your advantage. So it is integral in my mind if the Pistons do want to make a run here, if they do want to keep this season as a potential postseason success. I think they are going to have to maintain that 1 seed, and it's going to have to be on the back of a Dennis Jenkins, a Tobias Harris, a Duncan Robinson, a Jalen Duren. It's going to have to be on the back of players who largely are considered number 2s when compared to Cade Cunningham. So there's going to be a lot of stress on JB Bickerstaff to have his guys ready. There's going to be a lot of stress on the players themselves to perform. But last night showed me the light. It showed me that they absolutely can maintain this 1 seed without Cade Cunningham. And that is incredibly impressive for, once again, a team that just a couple of seasons ago was in the basement of the NBA. And right now we're talking about, can they get the number 1 overall seed down the stretch without their best player, Cade Cunningham? Postseason basketball is coming, and the Pistons are going to be in it. Just hope that Cade Cunningham will be a part of that. All right. Lots of chats. So let me get to these. Let me try to get through them. All right. Let's see. Okay. Divisions don't matter. But I believe OKC and San Antonio both clinch. Yeah, it says they clinched their divisions on the NBA.com standings. So I don't know if that means absolutely in the playoffs. I don't really know. So, yeah. Either way, the postseason. How did the injury even happen? I don't know. I have no idea. You're going to have to ask the doctors. I got no clue. The first Wizards game, he left 5 minutes. He left 5 minutes in. He left after for apparent back spasms. Yeah, and I guess it had to do with the collapsed lung. So, but yeah, the next 11 has some decent opportunities. I'm assuming you mean opponents, maybe. I'm not sure. Not totally sure about that. There's a 4-game stretch. That's basically the final test at Minnesota, at OKC, Toronto, and Minnesota. Yeah, talked about that. Got Atlanta and New Orleans first, so we should be 5-0 without Cade going into that stretch. I mean, look, and Atlanta's coming in on a 2-game win streak, and they went off. The fact that they have launched themselves into a 6 seed despite trading Trae Young, you got to give some credit to the Atlanta Hawks for their efforts. They are right back in it, despite getting rid of the guy who got them to the Eastern Conference Finals just a few seasons ago. Pistons last 11. Hawks, Pelicans, at T-Wolves, at Thunder, Raptors, T-Wolves, at Sixers, at Magic, Bucks, at Hornets, at Pacers. That's not an easy stretch. That's especially, like you said, that starting with that at Wolves to probably, I'd even say that at Sixers. That's probably that as tough as you can get. Because the Magic, I mean, you've beaten the Magic a number of times at this point. I really don't think that they're all that good. And at least with the Sixers, you could say, well, it's a tough place to play. And they're a fringe playoff team. Tyrese Maxey won't be playing, though, I believe, if memory serves. But how real do you believe the Pistons are? Eastern Conference Finals good? Finals good? Or are they getting bounced in the first round? Well, I don't think they're going to get bounced in the first round, especially if they maintain the number 1 seed. I mean, let me put it to you this way. They're either going to have to play they could end up playing the Hornets, the Heat, the Sixers, or the Magic. Those are the 4 teams that they could end up playing. Are you really afraid of any of those teams in a 7-game series? I mean, maybe the Heat. Maybe Bam's going to score another 84 points. I don't know. Maybe if the Sixers get Tyrese Maxey back, and obviously these could change in the last few games here, but these are the teams that are right there right now. I don't really believe that any of those teams are going to knock you out in the first round. Now, as far as the finals or conference or the conference finals go, I don't know. I mean, your problem is you're going to be coming back with a Cade who might not be 100%. I don't know that they have the shooting to really match up with a Boston if that ends up being your Eastern Conference Finals. And assuming Jason Tatum, maintains form, that could be a tough matchup. But I will say, I do think that they will give any team that they play a fight. I don't think they're just going to flounder. I just don't see this team, say losing 4 games in a row or losing 4 out of 5 or something like that. I think for sure they have to get out of the first round. They got to get that monkey off their back of haven't won a playoff series since 2008. They got to get that off their back. Last year they had the playoff win. Now they got to get the series win. And I think any of those 4 teams, if you're talking a 7-game series, I take the Pistons in all of those. I want to believe they're a real contender, but the fact they don't have stars aside from Cade is why I have reservations. I do think Jalen Duren's a star, but I get what you mean. I mean, they don't have a shooter type star. Like Duren can score, but he's scoring pretty much entirely under the rim or on lobs or, whatever the case might be. I think Jalen Duren is a star, but yeah, I understand the point you're making. I basically agree. Charlotte and Miami could give them more of a scare, more 6 games, but not upset alert. Yeah, I mean, I don't know though. I mean, we beat Charlotte every time we played them, I think. Let me take a look. I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure that have we lost to Charlotte all year? Okay, I guess we'll play them one more time, so we could lose to them at the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, we've beaten them every time we played them. I don't know. They don't frighten me, really. They're not a team that I'm really that concerned about. But ultimately, yes, it's going to be on Cade Cunningham's health. If Cade Cunningham does come back for the playoffs, and he's basically the same, it's just a matter of, okay, you just had to heal from this collapse on, and it's not like he lost anything, then yeah, I think they could be Eastern Conference Finals, 2 finals good. But if he comes back and he's a little slow, and they kind of have a minutes restriction, but they're not saying they have a minutes restriction, and yeah, that could pose a challenge for when Boston comes a knocking, or when Cleveland might come a knocking, or even heaven forbid New York. I would be so sad if New York ends up knocking out the Pistons. After all of the smacking around we've done to them all year because Cade Cunningham is slow to play. Pistons definitely got to go shooter in the offseason no matter what happens. Yeah, I mean, and that can take a variety of forms. I don't know who would necessarily be available in the offseason as far as that shooter goes. It really also would depend, I guess, on how they look in the playoffs as well. I mean, if Dennis Jenkins goes out and he's clutch and he's hitting big time threes, maybe you say, okay, well, maybe we did kind of find a nice, backup shooter here. Maybe we don't need to, go that crazy. I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate is not necessarily my position. But either way, that might be what they're thinking. And you can also attack other potential needs. I think it's clear at the very least that the Karis LeVert signing did not really pan out the way it was supposed to. The Duncan Robinson move worked out quite well, I think. So that was certainly a nice move to bring in an extra shooter there. But you're going to need a little bit more than Duncan Robinson. As good as he's been, you're going to need somebody else. Just like another guy who plays similar to Cade. Kind of like how Shai has Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams is not some amazing stud player. I know people really like him, but yeah, he's not a blow your doors off kind of player. But he is a player that complements Shai very well. he can go off and go for that. And you also have plenty of guys in the draft with the Pistons potentially having that pick swap with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let me actually take a look at that. Let's see. No, I want Tankathon NBA. I don't know if we get that. Okay, so right now we do have that pick swap with Minnesota. So if we could end up, jumping to 22. Obviously it's not an additional pick, but we could end up jumping up in the draft. Maybe that allows us to get something a little bit better. So, there's a variety of ways to go about acknowledging this problem that the team is going to consider. And look, I mean, if by I'm not going to say it's a total impossibility, but if by a very high improbability the Pistons do win the NBA Finals and get to bring the trophy back to Detroit, I mean, what is anybody even going to say as far as subseason needs? They might say, I don't know, I guess just keep everybody here, like maintain what you had. That could be good. Right. This I pretty much agree. He needs at least a Robin, not a Justice League. You don't need to go out there and overhaul the team. You don't need to trade, Tobias Harris, Dennis Jenkins, Ron Holland, and Asar Thompson for Kawhi Leonard or something like that. But, you could go out and maybe look for a guy who maybe you can get on a cheaper term deal or a shorter term deal. Maybe you can you can poach a guy, like a younger player who is on a bad team and wants out. That's also an option. I don't know who these options are specifically. That might come later in the season when we see more of what the offseason is going to be. But yeah. Yes, Red Wings goal. Alex DeBrincat, the former Ottawa Senator, getting a little revenge. 1-0 Red Wings. 4:35 in the first period. Oh, wait, hold on. Are they looking at it? What are they looking at? Oh, no, Ottawa's challenging it. Wait a minute. Hold the fort. What are they challenging? Oh, they're challenging offsides. Oh, boy, I don't know. Oh, no. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, does the puck have to cross the entirety of the blue line? Because if that's the rule, then it's definitely offsides. Oh, no. I can never remember. What's the rule? Anybody in the chat know what is the rule, that the puck has to cross the entirety, or does it just have to cross the beginning of the line? Because if it has to just cross the beginning of the line... Okay, hold on. I'm waiting for the signal. No goal. Offsides. Well, that was fun. No goal. Okay. So it was offsides. Still 0-0. I got to give some credit to these NHL coaches that can determine when there's like the fact that you have coaches win those challenges is pretty amazing. Like, how do they just like see it? That's crazy. That's crazy. Anyway, I do want to go blow my nose really quick. I'm sorry. I know I'm getting over some sickness, so let me go blow my nose. I'll be right back. All right. Yeah, I don't know what offsides is. I think it is that it has to cross the entirety of the blue line. I think that's how that works. I don't know. MSU actually has double the UConn as the hockey team plays the Huskies in the Frozen Four. Huh. Pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, I guess speaking of, let's just jump into March Madness here. We're on a basketball roll here. Look, all right. I want to start with kind of an overview, of some of the crazy things that happened in the first round. And then I want to talk about Michigan State. So bear with me if you're not that interested in Michigan State at the end, but at least let me talk here. So, first things first, I have to talk about this game. Duke and Siena. I hate you, Duke. I picked you to win. In my bracket, I have Duke winning it all. And they had to just stress me out all game long. They're losing to the Siena Saints, whose mascot is a St. Bernard. And they are losing to this team for like the entire game. And I'm thinking at first in the first, I'm like, oh, okay. They're a little slow. It's a little sloppy, this 16 seed. These guys, they don't know what they're doing. And then they're losing at the half. And then they're still losing at the end of at the start of the second half. And then they're losing pretty deep. I'm like, okay, you know what? At this point, I don't know who to root for because I hate Duke so much. And I hate that I had to pick them or that I chose to pick them for a national championship. And I hate that they're losing right now because it might hurt my bracket. But I also want to see them lose this. But they don't end up losing. And that game almost made me give up on college basketball. I was about ready to throw my television out of my apartment and drop it right down onto the ground below. That was a putrid game. And we'll get into it when we get to Michigan State, but it might that game in a way gives a kind of hope. Now, speaking of hope, the Ottawa Senators just scored. It's 1-0. Power play goal.
This is bad. This is very,
Stephen
very
A.
bad.
I'm so sick of these people. Oh!
That's me every time I watch the Red Wings. I'm so sick of these people.
Not great, Bob.
Thank you. Anyway, where was I? Florida also, in a crazy game, falls to Iowa in the round of 32. The reigning national champs. Do people even remember this? Florida won last year. They won it all last year. I don't think anybody even remembers. And in the round of 32, I had the game on. I was on the phone with my girlfriend. And I'm watching the game. I think I was on the phone with my girlfriend. Yes, I was. No, maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Either way, I was watching the game. And I'm like, oh, wow, Florida might lose this. Because one of the people in the bracket group we're in has Florida winning it all. I'm like, oh, wow, Florida might actually lose. And I'm like, okay, well, they have the ball. They're going to have to be, they're down just one. If they could just get a shot off, they could have, maybe they draw a foul. Maybe they make it and then, whatever. They don't even get a shot off. When I tell you I'd be sick if that was my team, if that was Michigan State, I'd tell you I'd be in the infirmary. They'd have to put me in hospice. That is a brutal way to lose a game, especially in a year where you're trying to defend your title. That's brutal. That is brutal. So, sucks for Florida, though. And finally, Kentucky Santa Clara was pure, unadulterated pain. Just it was Jameis Winston. Where is it?
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
It was just pain everywhere. Okay. I did not believe in Kentucky. And I still don't believe in Kentucky. Because I have a couple reasons. Reason number one is because Kentucky always loses in the tournament. That just goes, like, they just always do. Even when John Calipari was there, they just always lose in the tournament. And they're just Kentucky. You love to see them lose. They're the SEC version of Gonzaga. Reason number two was because I remember early in the season when Michigan State played them on a neutral site game and just like body bagged them, just like took them to the slap fest. I don't know what that means. They just beat them up hard. So I was like, I'm going to go with Santa Clara. I'm going to go with the upset. And for about 1.5 seconds, I thought I was going to be the super genius. I was going to vault into first place in my bracket group. I was going to be the hero. And then I see Kentucky hit a game-tying three, basically from half court. And I thought, you know what? You win. You win. I don't. Why? Why? Santa Clara. They played the game of their life. They're beating up Kentucky. Big blue blood Kentucky. Anthony Davis, the whole shebang. And then they lose. I mean, I knew that they basically were going to lose once that buzzer beater. And the problem is now, I watched that game live. I was at work. I was watching that game live. And when I saw Santa Clara hit the big three to go up three, I was like, yes! Like I couldn't yell because I was at work. But I was like, yes! And then I see Kentucky immediately going, inbounds it. Here's the shot for the tie. That was my reaction. Just, oh no. Like, are you serious? I can't. It was, I mean, look, it's going to be one of those things where in the March Madness Greatest Moments compilations that CBS or the March Madness YouTube channel or college whoever, they're just like, when they put together those montages, that clip is going to be on there. It's kind of like, last year when the Pistons were in the playoffs against the Knicks and Jalen Brunson sent Asar Thompson sliding into the first row and then hit a basically what was going to be a game-winning three. That shot's going to be in those best playoff moments in NBA history. That moment with Kentucky Santa Clara, that's going to be in the top 25 March Madness moments in the 2020s. Terrible. How'd my Gonzaga catch a straight? I'm sorry. I love Gonzaga. I do. But come on. I'm right. All right. This is just what they do. All right. This is why it was like a few years ago. It was like you couldn't pick Butler. Remember this? I don't know. Maybe I'm aging myself. Like 10 or maybe 12 years ago, Butler was the team that, like, if you picked them, I was always like, don't do it. You can't. I don't care how good they are. They're going to lose. They're going to hurt you, and they do. And now Gonzaga is kind of that team, or I guess they've been that team for a little bit. I'm sorry. I don't mean to hurt you. We're gonna join the Pac 3. It's gonna be 5. There's gonna be 3 teams in the Pac 3. It's gonna be great. Gonzaga got an easier conference because St. Mary's left for Arizona State. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so at least they used to have St. Mary's. St. Mary's is always kind of good. They also lost, though. So, All right. Now, wanted to talk a little MSU on this. So, I went into the March Madness thinking, Michigan State had pretty much a disappointing year. Or not a disappointing. Well, yeah, kind of a disappointing year, I'd say. They didn't win the Big Ten. They got immediately bounced in the Big Ten tournament. They didn't beat Michigan at all. It was just kind of one of those years where you're like, they're good, but they're not that great. They didn't achieve anything beyond what they achieved last year. And if anything, they went backwards because they didn't win the Big Ten. They didn't beat Michigan. So in the first round, they're matched up. They're a 3 seed. They get matched up with North Dakota State. And I was like, okay, they're going to win this game, right? They're going to win this game. Now, I wanted a low-stress game, and they gave it to me. They completely massacred North Dakota State. It was like NBA versus G League. It wasn't even close. And they just massacred them. Now, the second game, they played Louisville. Now, I didn't even think Louisville was going to be there because I fell for the South Florida propaganda. That's a story for another day. But I fell for the South Florida propaganda. I didn't think Louisville was going to be there. And they destroyed them. And I know what people say, well, it was very close. No. Michigan State was ahead for basically that entire game. They were just playing with their food. They were strangling Louisville. They couldn't come back. It was like whenever they'd get to within like 5, Michigan State would go on a run. Or whenever they would, bring it into single digits, Michigan State would go on a run. Cohen Carr playing an incredible game. And how did they win? You might say it was a low-scoring affair. You might assume that that's the case. However, They won by scoring threes. They won by Trey Fort deciding, you know what? I'm going to actually do what I was tasked with doing here, which is shoot the three ball and playing great basketball. And then Cohen Carr turning into this unstoppable force on defense and offense. It was like, huh? And so it makes me ask the question, where can MSU make that run? And how far is that run going to go? They got UConn coming up against psychopath Dan Hurley. Just a couple of years ago, national champion with UConn. That's not going to be an easy game. Certainly not going to be an easy game. And here's the other thing I wanted to point out here. These are the moments. These, getting into the Sweet 16 again. These are the moments where fans really need to appreciate Tom Izzo for what he is. Because I know that when he leaves, this kind of, mere acceptance of the Sweet 16, that's going to go away. Because you don't usually go. Sometimes you do, but you probably don't go from one of the all-time great college basketball coaches to another all-time great college basketball coach in one coaching cycle. You just don't do it. I mean, even ask Michigan. They went from, Beeline to Juwan Howard. That is not easy. That it is not easy going through that. And I know I've heaped a heck of a lot of the blame on Izzo for a number of occasions. He's only won one national championship. But when you lose a coach like that, you're going to lose a lot more than just, the old school, yelling and screaming at the referees. You're going to lose those, oh, we made the Sweet 16. Who cares? Whatever. Telling you, man, it can switch like a dime. Now, again, am I saying that the Sweet 16 is great and that I only want to make the Sweet 16 every year? No. But I'd rather make the Sweet 16 every year than not. And I'd rather every year kind of feel like, well, maybe this is the year Michigan State can make a run in the tournament. Maybe they can make a Final Four. Maybe they can win the Big Ten. Maybe they win the national championship. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with consistently putting up winning seasons and having a coach that I can respect, Either way. If Michigan State continues to play the way they just played in those first two games, they absolutely can make a run. And a part of that is that I think that Duke is a lot more of a paper tiger than they might admit to being. For one, you have a less experienced coach than Tom Izzo out in Duke. And you got a team at Michigan State that has played together for a long time. I mean, Cohen Carr has been on the team for a long time. Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler have been on the team for a long time. You got a lot of synergy that Duke, running off of the Boozer twins, it's not the same kind of team chemistry. And you saw that in the Siena game, in the fact that they struggled. If you can get a weak Duke in the Elite Eight, if you manage to beat UConn and you get a weak Duke team in the Elite Eight, I don't see why Michigan State can't get that win, especially when Michigan State almost got the win on Duke earlier in the year. So I'm having a great time either way because, look, I mean, as much as I thought that they were going to make the Sweet 16, I also thought they were going to be playing South Florida. So, I wasn't expecting them to have to play Louisville. If they beat UConn, I would be ecstatic. And I would probably be live reacting to the Elite Eight game for a potential Final Four berth. I probably would. But as it stands right now, Michigan State, once again, a potential team for a big-time tournament run. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good for me. Let's see. What do we got? A lot to talk about. UConn has a familiar name. Terrence Reed Jr., ex-Michigan Juwan Howard guy. Well, he can't be that good if he's a Juwan Howard guy, so I'm okay with that. Rizzo was 1-0 against Dan Hurley. 2021-2022 beat them 64-60. Oh, man, I think I forgot about that. Man, that's a crazy stat. That's a nice pull. Trey Fort, it's finally great to see you. Yes, I agree with that. I remember like watching the game. I'm like, Trey Fort? He did like nothing all regular season. Sometimes guys do that though. Cohen Carr could be a first-round pick who plays like that all season. Yeah. I mean, he's playing elite defense. We already know that he's an elite athlete. He's probably the best athlete in college basketball. Like the guy is just a walking highlight reel. But if he can, maintain defensive skills, if he can even put up some decent shots, yeah, absolutely. Do you think you could lure Dan Hurley from UConn to MSU? Do you think? I don't know if I could do that, but I certainly think Michigan State could do that. I mean, look, as big of UConn as UConn is as a college basketball school, Michigan State is far and away a better brand. I mean, it just is. Like Magic Johnson, Mateen Cleaves, Tom Izzo, all like Draymond Green. Like Michigan State is the bigger brand in college basketball compared to UConn. This is not disrespectful to UConn. I think UConn's right there next to them, but Michigan State just is. Hurley turned on the Lakers, so that'll be hard. Yeah, I kind of agree. Yeah. Try Nate Oates from Alabama, coached at Romulus before going to Buffalo. I did not know that. Did not know he coached at Romulus. I would love Nate Oates too. I think he'd be great. He's obviously one of the better coaches on the SEC. I do think it'd be a very different kind of basketball team for Michigan State. You'd see a lot more threes. I'll tell you that much. A lot more shots that you don't like being taken. So careful what you wish for. Carr's Jr., same with Fears, always considered a sophomore for the gun injury. Kohler and Cooper are seniors, and definitely where a hole will be going into next. I don't know what you're trying to say. I think you mean like they're going to be a hole. Like losing those two guys. Yes. I agree with that. Yeah, because we don't really have any other centers outside of them. So head to the recruiting trail or head to the portal, Tommy boy. If Fears, Carr, Ward, and Scott can stay on this team, it's going to be elite, especially with the top recruiting class coming in. 3 4-stars and a 5-star. Yeah, exactly. Like I think, this year is kind of like a fun year. If you can go on a run here, next year, with another year of development for Jeremy Fears, another year of development for Cam Ward and for Carr and Jordan Scott, and all those recruits coming off of the bench. That could be good. That could be good. Center going to be the weakness. No Carper. Cooper and Cole are just going to be Jesse McCullough and Ethan Taylor. His name is Ethan Taylor. I mean, come on. Ethan Taylor? That's the name of our center? Okay. Michigan State always finds some white dude to just ball out. I've always, my whole life, they've had some white dude just ball out for them. They had Thomas Kithier when I was a freshman in high school. In college, they had Joey Hauser, and now they had Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, and now they're gonna have Ethan Taylor. Okay, all right, I'm good with it. Final Four is in Detroit next year. That's true. Very well. I mean, look, that could be the year where if Tom Izzo's gonna do the big time transfer portal, bring the best player. I don't care how much money it costs. I want to win a national championship before I retire. That could do it. Taylor's not white. His name's Ethan Taylor, and he's black. Hold on. Are you serious? Link Academy. What does this guy look like? Wow. Ethan Taylor is black.
I have a great relationship with the blacks. I've always had a great relationship with the blacks.
I didn't expect him to be black, Is that wrong? His name is Ethan Taylor. Like, come on, man, help me out. His name's Ethan Taylor. Come on. He's black? It doesn't look like him. Anyway. I didn't know that he was. I thought he was white. I did. Link also has another MSU recruit, Carlos Medlock Jr. See, now that guy's not white. All right. You can't tell me that guy's white, right? Let's see. Carlos Medlock Jr. Yeah, see, that guy's not white. That guy's not white. He's black. That's, I'll fix it next time. Yeah, I'm not deleting my ad blocker, even though I probably should because it doesn't do anything for me. Anyway, just moving along. All right. Okay, that was pretty much. I guess we could briefly talk Red Wings. I guess, okay, like all these people who were doing these moral victory nonsense over the weekend because they got goalied. Please stop. Please stop. They blew that game against Boston. They were up in the third period, and they blow it. They just blow it. And now they're down 1-0 to Ottawa going into the second period. If they lose this game, I think their playoff odds drop to 40%. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be Mr. Mean Guy. I'm not trying to be Mr. Hater. But if this collapse happens again, if they miss the playoffs again, Steve Yzerman has to go. He has to go. It is that simple. What else are you? What else do you need to see? He's been here for 7 years. This is season 8. You cannot tell me that the only reason we haven't made the playoffs is because of Ken Holland leaving the cupboards bare. I understand. I understand. It's not like he was given a great situation. But if you can't make the postseason in the NHL, if you can't make the postseason after 8 seasons, after 8 draft class, after 8, off seasons, you're not a good GM. You're not a GM who can win Stanley Cups or win a Stanley Cup. Every year that we collapse is a year removed from what he did in Tampa Bay. Okay? And the league is different than what it was when he was in Tampa Bay. We're at this point we're talking well over a decade when he started. I cannot fathom people still in earnest after this year talking about the Yzer plan in anything other than a joking manner. Now, I gave up Reddit for Lent, and I just have to hope that after Easter, if and when I go ahead and check the Detroit Red Wings subreddit, I have to hope and pray that if the Red Wings are out of the playoffs, if they've been either officially eliminated, I don't think they can be officially eliminated, but if they're basically out of it, and there are still people talking about how this isn't Yzerman's fault, or downvoting people for making fun of Yzerman, or making fun of sycophantic fans, then we're just going to have to live in the reality that Red Wings fans are truly the most sycophantic, homer, cannot take any criticism of their team with any semblance of sincerity. They cannot. Their brains simply cannot take it, or whatever is left of them. Now, of course, the reality is they're not out of it. They can still make the playoffs, but at this point, you're looking at wild card 2 or 1. You're not even looking at a top 3 spot in your division. Let me remind you that the Red Wings at one point in the season were the number 1 team in the conference, or in the division at least, I should say. And now we're talking about, well, if they can just squeeze on in, that'll be a success. No, it won't. It will be the result of 8 years of finally, having the puck luck follow you. That's not success. What Buffalo's doing, that's success. What Montreal is doing, that's success. Okay? Not finally making the postseason. I don't get it. And look, this is a brilliant point. You can't compare rebuilds in other sports, but the Red Wings rebuild started in 2019. The Tigers, Pistons, and Lions all started rebuilds after, and they all made the playoffs. Tigers and Pistons in their playoff window. And I mean, you mentioned the Lions. I'd say the Lions are probably also still in that category. All 3 of the other teams, if you're just unless you are just, completely negative on any or all of those teams, you could say with reasonable, I think it would be a reasonable opinion to say, look, these are all teams that, unless catastrophic things happen, or unless, I don't know, players fall off a cliff, they're all teams that you would say are probably in the realm of teams that could make a run in the postseason. The Red Wings aren't even in the same category. They are not even right now considered a for sure postseason team. And the worst part about it is that those other teams in the city, they all started after 2019. The Pistons got the number 1 overall pick in 2022 and then bottomed out again. And they're a finals contender. Just like that. Just like that. Even with the Lions had an awful head coach and an awful GM, were bad for starting in 2019, were bad for 2 of those years or 3 of those seasons. Then they have had a winning record since 2022, have made the playoffs in 2 of those seasons. One of those, 1 game away from a championship game. The other year were the number 1 team in the conference, number 1 seed. There's no world. Even if you want to say, okay, hockey's different. How can you sit here and watch every other team successfully rebuild in a shorter time span and still sit here and say, we just need to give Steve Yzerman more time? The Lions were in a terrible spot in 2021. They are right now an odds-on favorite to win their division, according to Vegas. Okay? The Pistons were a terrible team in 2021. They, right now, are the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Tigers were a terrible team in 2021. Right now, they're also odds-on favorites to win their division and one of the best teams in the American League as far as projections go. And if the only thing you can cite is, well, those other teams got good draft picks or got good draft, placement. Well, golly gee, what in the world are you good at if you're a GM and you can only be good, if you can only elevate yourself if you have the number 1 overall pick That doesn't make you a great GM. Troy Weaver nailed the number 1 overall pick for the Pistons. You know what Trajan Langdon didn't need? A number 1 overall pick. You know what Scott Harris didn't need? A number 1 overall pick. You know what Brad Holmes didn't need? A number 1 overall pick. Al Avila. All of these guys, none of them needed number 1. These guys, these guys were bad GMs. The bad GMs used the number 1 overall pick, did not succeed, got fired, and then immediately got replaced by better people. And now they're good. So why is that not potentially the same situation as we have with Steve Eisman? Maybe Steve Eisman is a good drafter. Maybe. I don't know. His players don't show up. And when they do show up, they take years to develop. And outside of Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider, none of these guys are superstars or even close to it. You know, Simon Evans is not a superstar. Marco Casper's not a superstar. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And these are his first round picks. I'm not even getting into the fact that none of his late round picks ever make the team or stay. Shout out Elmer Soderblom. So, you know, I like how I said I was only going to make this segment short, but now it's turned into this whole thing. So, you know, look, maybe they'll win this game and it won't matter and we'll be right back into the playoff push. But if they lose this game, man, that's it. You know, it's over. You're probably not going to make the playoffs at that point. So, yeah. And Soderblom's not even on the team. They traded Soderblom. And Emmett Finney's not a superstar. He's a fine player. Decent player. Not a superstar. Anyway. All right. My voice is starting to get scratchy, as you could probably tell. I'm going to head out. I'm going to go ahead and call it a show. Appreciate you guys for stopping in and listening to the show. If the Spartans do make it to the Elite Eight, be on the lookout potentially for an Elite Eight live reaction stream. Not totally sure. Obviously, it would depend on the time and everything. So, you know, don't want to set it in stone or anything, but be on the lookout potentially. With that being said, though, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I will for sure see you all. Not first of all, I will for sure see you all. Excuse me. I will for sure see you all next Tuesday. Breaking on all the sporting news of the week. Tigers opening day also this Thursday. Won't be able to go live for that, unfortunately, due to work constraints. But hopefully that, you know, the Tigers start their season off well. We'll be able to talk about it next week. Have a good rest of your night and take care. See you later. Goodbye. See ya. Goodbye.